Welcome to 30 What Now, a podcast dedicated to millennials figuring the shit out. This is your host, Melissa Tan. Hello everybody, welcome to 2026. I hope everyone's year has started being really well. I am just going to be really honest with you. I am recording this in January, like the 11th of Jan specifically, but I do not know when I'm going to release this because I've decided to be a little bit more like Netflix and have a limited series of podcasts for 2026. So for those of you who may know, like I just adopted a puppy last year, and then I was getting married, as I got engaged. I'm getting married this year, so there's not a lot of time, and I really sat on whether I wanted to continue on this podcast. And I've had conversations with different people, and people are like, do you enjoy doing this? I'm like, I do, but it was a lot more enjoyable when there was two people. There was a lot more like admin work in relation to like needing to get everything all lined up, but it was a lot more enjoyable. And now it's actually a lot less, there's less, motivation to have to podcast. And then a little part of me is like, I don't even know if people are listening. And then my friend's like, does it matter if people are listening, if it's a hobby? And for those of you who've been listening, you know I don't do hobbies without goals. I don't do hobbies without it being like a success. And so to me, I'm like, even if I'm having fun and it's a hobby, does it matter if no one's listening? But then I had people reaching out and telling me that they have been listening and they've been enjoying the episode, and they gave me some comments and stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's fine. But I think I'm just going to be really gentle with myself because there's a lot going on this year. I'm just going to see if I can do like a 4-part series podcast for 2026. And I'm going to actually, I would love for myself to record everything before I release it for 2026. So I don't know when I'm going to release this. But just so you know, I am recording this in January. So with that intro, let's get into the topic of today. Today I am going to talk about a side quest that took place in 2025 for me. So in 2025, I went on a side quest. It's not a career one, not a fitness one, not even a self-improvement one, even though it wasn't initially. But I've decided to start selling everything that I no longer want or use. So like clothes, accessories, books, random things that quietly followed me from one version of me to another. And I wasn't sure if it was about clearing space or making a little bit of extra money on the side, because it definitely helped. From last year, I made $1,815 just from selling random shit around the house, right? Not sure whether it was that, but something that I didn't expect to happen, which is how much it would clear myself and my mind. And although I know everyone's like, yes, we've heard of Marie Kondo, I agree, it's not a new concept, but instead of just decluttering by donating stuff or by getting rid of stuff, my way of doing it is to sell stuff. And I'm going to tell you why that this is such a great way of getting rid of your things. So firstly, I want to say that this side quest didn't come from wanting to be a minimalist or for aesthetic reason. Because you see, last year I decided to move in with my partner, and prior to this, I haven't moved in to another place for 12 years, which meant that I had 12 years of opportunities to accumulate things and not get rid of it. And realistically, during COVID, I did get rid of bags and bags of clothes, and I did donate it to places. I donated to charity shops. I also donated some scrap cloth to H&M, which I think at the time they had this program where they'll take scrap clothes and then they will, then they will recycle them somehow. So I did donate a whole bag of stuff, right? But I still have so much shit. And so whilst I was looking at all my clutter that I had to move from one place to the other, my body and my brain was filled with such mental noise. I would look each of my items and I thought to myself, what is this? Why am I even keeping this? And why does this fill me with such dread? So psychologists obviously talk about this concept called the cognitive load, which is the manual effort that's required to process information. So here's the thing. Every time you own something, each item asks something from you. They ask quietly of something from you, use me, store me, maintain me, or feel guilty that you're not using me. So multiply that by hundreds of objects and your brain really doesn't rest. So why did I decide to sell, you know? Do you mean that you've donated rather than you stole something? Like, no. I actually mean I sold it. I sold things slowly. I sold things intentionally and with patience. And then over time, I guess I think I've sold things successfully. I hate to use the word successfully, but I guess I'll use it for now. Because I feel like selling forces a question that decluttering by donating sometimes avoid, which is, was this item that I'm selling actually valuable? And if not, was it worth it? Like, was that item worth it for that period of time? Because every listing that I made me confront, the question, why did I buy it? How little did I use it? What version of me belonged to it? And eventually selling turned decluttering into a type of reckoning. Because once you try to sell something, you realize how quickly everything that you own is worth nothing. That's right, nothing. I tell you, nothing. Because remember how I said I sold $1,815 worth of things? That's from selling 86 items, which means everything that I sold was sold for like an average of 20 bucks. And if you put it that way, you're like, actually, that's pretty good. But remember how some of your items you bought for over hundreds or $100, $200. And I'm not saying I sold those items for 20 bucks. No, because sometimes I tried selling it for $5 and even then people haggle or people ask, can you give it to me for free? So, but so obviously from all this, you can tell that I probably sold all this stuff on Facebook Marketplace. So this side quest to me really became like a fun, a little bit annoying social experiment. Because obviously there were messages that range from, hey, is this available? And then silence, like they ghosted you, to people negotiating $5 like it was a hostage situation, people asking questions that's already answered in the listing, people showing up late or not showing up at all, or people then asking for, hey, can you wear that shoes and then meet me in wherever you wanted to meet me? I just want to see you wear it. And I have to say that because I did try selling shoes I no longer wanted, I had my fair share of people asking for feet pics and for sweaty footwear. But apart from that, there was also like a lot of genuinely lovely and nice moments, like people excited to wear a particular dress to an event, or people excited that they found the thing that they wanted for half the price, or more than half the price, and people saying like, oh, thanks, this is exactly what I wanted. So Marketplace really stripped back consumption or overconsumption back to its most human and simplistic form, which is one person's trash is another person's treasure. Wow, revelation. And here's the really interesting thing, right? This isn't just a quirky side quest anymore. Platforms like Facebook Marketplace and Depop are no longer just places that people offload junk. There are heaps of people, including myself, actively shopping and selling furniture, clothes, everyday items that don't need to be brand new, especially in this economy. Recent consumer research shows that millennials are one of the fastest growing groups using resale platforms, particularly because of the cost of living pressures rise, and sustainability is now really important to a lot of young people. And I have a lot of millennial friends who have recently bought new houses, and they have, filled their houses with treasures of furniture that they bought on Marketplace. And at the same time, Gen Zs are leading in resale culture and frequency, especially on platforms like Depop, which is really interesting because from all the Gen Zs that I know, they do buy a lot of their clothes on Depop. There's a concept in psychology called the sunk cost fallacy, which we've all heard, and that's the idea that we keep things because we've already spent money or time on them. Well, decluttering, I think for me, breaks that spell. Selling things have fundamentally changed how I shopped. Selling things fundamentally change how I shop. I stopped buying for fantasy versions of myself. Selling things fundamentally change how I shop. I stopped buying for fantasy versions of myself, for emotional regulation, which may be a lie because I oftentimes buy lip glosses when I'm sad, and I still buy the occasional lip gloss, but then I use the heck out of that lip gloss, you know? I stopped buying for just in case scenarios, and then most importantly, I stopped buying because things, particular thing, it's on sale, and then I realize I do not even use them like a year or two down the line. Because once you photograph, listed, negotiated, and posted something on Facebook and having to deal with the people that's on Marketplace, you think very carefully before you buy the next thing. And here's the really unexpected part, right? Doing it at such a slow pace forced me to use my remaining things more and then kind of liking them. We've been told that choice and decision overload reduce satisfaction. So the more options we have, the less happy we feel with any of them. So the quieter my space got, the more I was able to notice things I haven't used for a long time. The more I was able to wear my favorite clothes because I didn't feel so guilty about using clothes I wasn't even using and started wearing that. The more I noticed quality over quantity, I started taking what sort of fabric my clothes are very seriously. And I'm not even talking about for it to be more expensive, just the quality in itself. I started also naturally decluttering things by throwing out things that's expired or a little bit broken. I also started cleaning up my emails or my photos on my photo apps like Google Photos or iCloud. I started wanting even less digitally. So declutter didn't even leave me with less, it actually left me with more, and that's more clarity. Multiple studies out there have also consistently linked decluttering to reduce stress, improve focus, better emotional regulation, and a greater sense of control. So visual clutter, both digitally and physically, competes for attention, making it harder for people to rest and concentrate, which means this side quest isn't just about selling stuff for money, it was about self-care. And with clothes, there's one other thing that I was letting go, which is my different identities. I'm not talking about people with multiple personalities, but I was letting go of the person who thought that would wear that outfit. The person who bought the books that they never read, the person who kept things because of sentimentality. Because, okay, here's a little bit of a depresso espresso thought for you. You have no space for sentimentality when you are poor. So this is going to be a mini tangent because what I've learned from this whole side quest is when you are poor, you have no space in your home, which means you have no space for that dress that you think you can pass down to your daughter who is not even here yet. You're not even pregnant, and that's like 20, 30 years down the line. You have no sentimentality for that random jewelry or thing that your ex-lover or your ex-best friend bought for you. And you just don't have space for sentimentality because you don't have that luxury. So once you could say that decluttering is like grief adjacent because you do have to mourn for the things you let go, especially when there is that level of sentimentality, sure, but it's also really freeing. When you let go of those things, you realize that maybe those are the emotional clutter or the emotional baggage that you were holding on to, but you don't really need. And it's, having that dress that you wanted to pass on to your daughter, it's an expectation that she's gonna like it. You don't know. Your style could be totally off and she's gonna hate it. So it's actually freeing to not even have this baggage and expectation. And because it also lets you say to yourself, like, this is who I am now, and that's enough. It doesn't need any validation or expectation or anything from anyone in your life ever. So here is my invitation to you. Pick a drawer, one shelf, any category, anything, and try selling one thing, not donating, selling. And it's not to make money, but it's to experience the process, see how it changes how you buy next time, see how it forces you to ask, do I want to own this? Or is just something is it a feeling that it promises? And yes, you'll get the occasional ghoster or creeper at a particular point. So then you will really need to ask, was this item, was this item worth it? Or do I need to be a little bit more careful in my next purchase? Because once you live on the other side of consumption or overconsumption, it's very hard to shop the same way ever again. So yeah, that's my episode, which is basically me talking about how much I was able to sell my stuff. I'm really proud. I know in the end I only really made $1,815, but it really did clear my mind. And I did this for 2025. I'm doing this again for 2026. And I think the risk of doing this like throughout my whole life is obviously you might have had the best things to sell in your first year. And I'm actually feeling that now. I'm like, what if no one actually wants my stuff this year and it's going to be a total failure? But it's okay. You're still getting rid of stuff. The other thing I was thinking to myself is you'll always have something to sell, because once you're done with this stage, like for example, when I have a kid in the future and then you have to buy kid stuff, you're going to have to get rid of that kid stuff. Or when you go into a new house, you buy a house and you go into a new house, you have to get rid of stuff that's more applicable to your old house. There's always things for you to declutter. And it does take a lot of patience and effort for you to sell things rather than to donate or chuck, which I think in the end, instead of needing to rely on this second process, this post-consumption process of getting rid of things, I think the first thing obviously you need to do is, how do I minimalize the things I have to buy, or the things that you think you have to buy because of external factors, right? So 2026, I am embarking on this journey. So if you are too, let me know and we can like compare notes and compare stories. But most importantly, if this episode like really resonates with you because, you know, you think that it's a way for you to like, if you think that life is a little bit too messy, too full because of a lot of the things the clutters in your mind, I will invite you. I know, I felt like I lost the momentum there, but what I just wanted to say is, if you think this resonated with you because, you know, your space or your mind is a little too full, I would love for you to start on this decluttering journey with me as well. And I'd love to hear what it teaches you, what you can teach me, because sometimes the side quests in your life are the things that changes you the most, more than any of the main storyline could ever do. So yeah, here is first episode of my limited series for 2026. Let's see what my other series will be. I can't wait to hear from you soon. Bye.